Welcome to the Beyond Electric Sheep podcast. I'm Brick Thompson.
And I'm Ed Daniels.
So, Ed, we've been talking a little bit about this new concept that Sam Altman has come up with. He coined the Gentle Singularity, which is basically this idea that the singularity, which is sort of the fast takeoff of intelligence,
Right.
An exponential increase of intelligence of AIs, is not going to be as scary as people thought. You know, there's the Terminator story and
Right.
and books that we've read over the last decade
Right.
about you're sort of summoning the genie, summoning the demon when you let this thing get to the point where it's smarter than humans and can start self-improving and so on. Sam is now making the case that it looks like we're already in the singularity. I think the term he used is we're beyond the event horizon.
Beyond the event horizon.
Which was pretty good,
exactly,
yeah. And that it is increasing exponentially now, and there are parts of these LLM-based AI tools that are smarter than humans generally across a bunch of stuff. Still not really doing novel things like novel math and novel science, but getting there. But that it's happening in a way that's more gentle and not as scary as people thought. So I thought we'd talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's my experience. I feel like I'm in the maelstrom of exponential growth in all these different dimensions, and it's hard to keep up with the technology. You know, you go away for 2 weeks, you come back or on any particular thread of AI, and it's advanced tremendously in just the last week or two. So it does feel like we're in that, but maybe we've adapted to it, whatever. It's not quite as horrifying or scary or just surprising as it started out being. And so maybe we've sort of gotten used to the pace of change a little bit.
I think so. I think there may be some physical limits to how fast it can improve because of the amount of energy it takes and the chips and the various things that have to come together. But I also think that it's possible that's just now. I do like this idea of a gentle singularity.
Yeah.
I love the intelligence explosion. I can't wait to see what it does for healthcare that will affect my family and me personally and people around me, everybody, and hopefully creating more wealth and opportunity for everybody. I do worry, though, it's possible that we're just sort of in it's gentle because we're at the beginning of it. And as it goes vertical, it could become something completely different. One of the things Sam was saying that you have to have a gentle takeoff, well, there were a few things. One of them was to make sure you don't get a concentration of this power that comes with these tools. I think it's going to take incredible government foresight and regulation, which generally I would rather have less regulation, but it seems like this could be a case where you need to watch out for that because you could end up with a few people that have all the power, a person or a company that has all the power, or a government. I don't know how you avoid that.
It's kind of like an antitrust thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That, gather the entire monopoly of intelligence.
Right. But then if China just blows past you anyway, I'm not sure how it helps you. Then you've got to have a good distribution of the good outcomes. So if it is increasing wealth overall of humanity, then somehow you have to distribute that fairly.
Right.
There's a bunch of stuff that has to happen. And I think in Sam's article about this, he says something about, it's not as scary as we thought. There's not robots walking around everywhere. That may be just now.
Right.
Give it 24 or 36 months, and there might be.
I think there will be robots wandering around.
Yeah.
But, and that's going to be truly shocking when that happens.
It will. And then you can get to, you can pretty quickly get back to some of those Terminator T2 style scenarios, which I don't love those because it sort of assumes a malevolent AI, which I'm not sure I believe in. But you could have malevolent humans driving AIs. You get, there was a Black Mirror episode where they had drones that carried a little bit of explosive and would do facial recognition to assassinate somebody and just fly in their house, zoom around and get them. And I was recently watching a drone expo video of it from China where there must have been 10,000 drones in the air doing amazing stuff. And I thought, if each of those had a quarter pound of C4 on it.
Right. That's the future of warfare or the present of warfare if you're in your Ukraine-Russian
I think that's
dispute.
right. Yeah. So
before we go too much farther in this, I just do want to bring up that there's another element of intelligence that is not just the simple mathematical exponential growth and the ability to, pass IQ tests or rack up IQ score, and that is natural language, whether it's spoken or written. And if you think about it, there's animals, you don't get to, you can talk to your dog and the dog might understand a few words, but they're not talking back to you in human language or whatever. So, but as, you all of a sudden get into humans, you can have a human that's not really very smart, but they still have the ability to communicate vocally in words in English, and then you can increase up the IQ curve and you could have a genius type person. Sometimes they're a little hard to talk with because they have so much knowledge and it's hard for them to condense it into a sentence, but still within the range from that person that's really not that smart to the really super genius level, they're able to communicate, ask the store clerk for a particular item, buy something, function in the normal human world. And so I think that once the LLMs and the multimodal learning models were able to get that language thing figured out, we accomplished a huge amount. And now a lot of intelligence can go on behind the scenes and not necessarily always have to come out in every single conversation. And so, I just think that we've sort of accomplished something there that's not quite the same as maybe what we thought about with the singularity. We sort of thought it would go completely out of sight, out the other end when things got really smart and we would be able to understand anything that's going on. But still, there's that human language level.
We might be able to, although they have done experiments where LLMs talking to each other will come up with a shorthand language to do it more efficiently.
Right, and I think I watched a demo of that, which was incredible. I think it was called Gibberlink. And these two agents were talking to each other on the phone, AI agents. One's going, I'd like to make a reservation. Did you hear this?
I did.
I'd like to make a reservation for 2 for next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And the other agent goes, I'm sorry, we don't have a table available at 8, but I think we have one at 8:30. I detect that you're an artificial intelligence. Yes, I am. Shall we switch to Gibberlink mode? Yes. Then after that, it was like modems
Sounds
talking
like
to each other.
okay. And way faster.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. Actually, I'd never even thought of that. I wonder if the LLMs now are specifically, when you're using a voice one, are they specifically keeping it in a normal speaking pace? I guarantee they are, because they could probably go double or 4 or 10 times.
I think that's
and
absolutely
humans wouldn't be
the
able
case,
to understand.
Right?
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Yeah, well, so back to this idea of gentle singularity, I really hope that's the case. And I listened to guys like Demis Hassabis over at DeepMind and the amazing stuff they're doing with like Alpha Genome and AlphaFold and all the drug discovery stuff and just stuff that's so good for us. There will also be a lot of business just driven by commercial, the capitalist things that drive our commercial enterprises that may not be always good for us. Like I can imagine an AI social network or Instagram analog that sucks up all your time.
Does a complete brain hack.
And sways elections or whatever. I mean, we saw Meta, Facebook do that like crazy through lots of elections around the world, and you could see applying that to an AI where it could really go nuts. So yeah, I like this idea. I hope it's right. I don't think though that we should be saying, okay, so Sam Altman said this is the way it's going to be, so we're good. I think we should be saying, okay, good. There seems like there's a possible path to that, as opposed to we're just screwed once we get to ASI. But we're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that happens, I think.
Yeah, or maybe we just, if nothing else, sort of round off the edges a little bit and try to be a little more cautious and gentle about what we're doing.
Well, so there's an interesting concept, actually, is this idea that let's go more slowly and carefully. But again, I think the motivations driven by commercial business will not let that happen. And maybe not just commercial business, but geopolitical stuff as well. Like, you can't risk, some other country dominating you with AI, so you have to go full blast. One thing I never hear talked about is what DARPA or the NSA are doing.
Right.
They've got to be deep in this, right?
Well,
Got to
I
be.
would think so. It's from the appearance, from external appearances, these commercial companies seem like they're just blasting so much farther ahead than the old stodgy Defense Department contractors are. But, I'm not so sure. I think they're maybe doing a lot of things.
The basement of the
scenes.
NSA is just full of.
Don't you think?
I do think, yeah. Gotta be.
Right.
I would think. Otherwise, wouldn't they just nationalize some of these big companies? And
and there are while there was resistance for a while there, Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta, all these guys are contracting with the Defense Department. So.
Oh yeah, I think they have to, or otherwise they would face, possibly being nationalized or something. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting mix of stuff right now. So I guess, sort of wrap that up. I'm glad that opinion's out there, because for a long time the only opinion was that this is dangerous and we're screwed. Now there are starting to be opinions like, no, I think we can navigate this, but I don't think it's a piece of cake or it's guaranteed by any means. I think it could still go off the rails.
I agree, and we don't have the answers, but I think by just thinking about the impact on our fellow humans, and especially those of us that are in technology, and just thinking a little bit about trying to smooth off the impact a little bit, it's probably good advice for everybody.
Yeah, I think so. All right, good discussion. Talk to you soon.